In this video, you will learn how to write in a file using Python. You can write in a file using two different methods, append and write. With append, you don't touch the existing file at all, and whatever you try to write in a file will be added at the end of the file. With write, you will write over the existing content of the file, which means that the existing content of the file will be removed and whatever you write will be uh, placed in the file. So as you can see here, assuming that we have 3, 4, and 1 and 8 as two fractions written in a file, if you try to add a new fraction called 7 and over 8, then with append, the end of the file is moved and 7 and 8 is added to the file. If you try to write 7 and 8 uh, using the write mode, then 3, 4, 1, and 8 is completely removed and 7 and 8 is written in the file. As you can see in the method, if you want to open the file using the append mode, then you need to provide string A as the second argument. If you want to uh, open the file in the write mode, then you need to provide W as the second argument. Note that if a file does not exist, open regardless of using string A or string W as the second argument will create the file for you. However, if the file exists, as soon as you as soon as you execute or Python execute the open command with W as the second argument, the file is going to be removed. The content of the file is going to be removed and it's ready to store the new content. Pause here for a minute and try to answer this question. Write a function that gets a file name and overwrite the file. Here is the answer to this exercise. We simply open the file using the write method and the file is overwritten. Don't forget to close the file after opening the file. Creating a backup file is an example of using the write method of opening the file in Python. We all know that data loss can happen during working with the files, so it's always wise to create a copy of your file before changing the file, editing it in any way. What you need to do is to first read the file using the read method. Since you don't care about the pattern in the file, you just need to use the read method. And after that, you can write the content of the file in another file, which you can call a backup file. So what you need to do here is to just open the file using the R method as the second argument, and then you just read everything and put it in content, and then you close the file. Afterward, what you need to do is to just open another file uh, using W as the second argument and read the content of the first file into the second file and then close the file. Let me provide an example for appending as well. In this case, we want to read two fractions from a file called fractions-3.txt. Then we want to calculate the sum of the two files, the two fractions, and then append the result to the same file. So uh, how to read the fractions, we already learned that in the previous video. I just copied line 1 to line 12 from slide 13. Please take a look at this in the previous video. We also, after reading everything and putting it in the all fractions, so all fractions now has 3 and 4 as the first element and 1 and 8 as the second element. Afterwards, we need to calculate the sum. You can see how I did the calculation of adding the two fractions here. This is not also the case here. What is important is that the result of C1 and C2 is um, 7 and 8 in this case, which is the outcome of the addition of the two fractions. Now, in the third part of this code, we want to write these two uh, fractions in fractions dash 3 .txt in a way that we already keep the current content, and 7 and 8 is only added at the end of the file. So you just need, in line 20, you just need to open the file using the append method, then start with writing a backslash n so that it goes to the next line, and then you print C1 and C2 with a blank space in between them to follow the pattern of the file, and afterwards you close the file. Note that closing a file is quite important after opening a file, especially when you write inside a file. If you don't uh, close the file using fh.close, for example, you may lose some part of the data that you wanted to write in the file. So you would see that part of the file is written as you wanted, but some uh, lines or some characters are missing in your file. So it's very important to close the file wherever, whenever you open it, and you do it as soon as possible. So because of this issue that programmers may forget to close the file, Python introduced a wait statement. So with the wait statement, as you can see, rather than just opening the file and closing the file in line 4 to 6, you simply write down wait and you write the open function, uh, which is a a write method uh, function here, and then you put an as keyword and fh there. So as a result, the file is opened in W mode. That means if the file is not created, the file is created. If the file is already exists, the file is overwritten and is empty so that you can use the file, and the handler for the file is called fh. Now you can simply write whatever you want in the content of whatever you want as the content of this file. The great thing is that as soon as the with statement is finished, the file is closed automatically. Pause here for 2 minutes and try to develop a code that uh, write down the content of the variable matrix, which is a list of lists, in a file called matrix-1.txt. As you can see, for each element, for each row of the matrix, you need to write it in one line in the file, and each element is separated. Elements are separated using blank spaces. And there is a test code to make sure that you write the code correctly. Note that there is a blank space between the last element of a row and backslash n. Here is the answer to this question. As you can see in line 8, I used a with statement to open the file to make sure that the file is closed properly at the end of my commands that are my codes that are related to this file. In line 9, I will iterate through the list in the matrix, which is a list of lists. So R would be the list of 3, 4, 7 the very first time that line 9 is executed. Uh, and then in line 10, I will iterate through the elements of that list, which means that C is 3 in the first iteration, then 4, and after that 7. And in line 11, you see that I write this element of the list. Use I first turn them into a string and then add a blank space, and then I will write that in the file. At the end of writing a row, I don't forget to write a backslash n. You see in line 12, I write a backslash n so that the next row is written in the next line. Now that you know how to read a file and how to write or append in a file, you are able to edit a small file.